Okay, welcome fourth graders to the Earthquakes test review. Alright, this chapter or this lesson wasn't that difficult, so I'm expecting some good grades, and especially if you've seen this video and you've done the vocabulary and the practice book pages, this lesson should go well for you. Okay, a couple things here. You need to know that the Earth, the outside, the outermost layer of the Earth is called the crust. I'm almost thinking of it kind of like an egg. The shell on the outside of the egg, the white part, is the crust. And then on the inside, you have the yolk and you have all the egg and stuff. That's where you're going to have the lava, the magma. Lava is when it comes outside and is on top of the Earth's surface. So magma is when it's inside, and then you have all of the hot inner layers of the Earth. So think of the crust kind of like the shell of an egg, all right? Now, the difference between the shell of an egg is that the shell around the egg is all hard. There's not any cracks in it, okay? There's no pieces that are holding it together. Whereas the Earth, that shell or that crust is kind of like a puzzle piece. You can see here in your notes the puzzle pieces, okay, all make up the crust, and the edges of each puzzle piece is called a fault line, okay? Well, these pieces, these crust pieces, the crust, is constantly moving. They're called plates. These plates are constantly moving and shifting next to one another. Most earthquakes happen along these fault lines where the two plates come together. You can see the red dots. Most of the earthquakes are happening along the fault lines. Now there's three different kinds of faults that can happen, that can cause earthquakes. Okay, you can have the plates that pull apart. This is called a normal fault. Okay, now in this one, let's say you have the two plates like this. In a normal fault, they pull apart and one drops. You notice none of the crust is not rising in this one. They pull apart and one drops, creating, you could have mountains that form or whatnot, but this is called a normal fault. Okay. Once again, it separates, one side drops, and the rocks above then drop, and it can create kind of like a mountain. Another kind is called a reverse fault. This is where the plates get pushed together, and one side gets lifted up. Once again, a reverse fault is where the plates come together, and one side gets pushed up. You notice in this one, nothing is falling. Things are only going, one side is only going up. Okay, so this is the reverse fault because it's like the opposite of this one. The normal one drops, they go apart and drop. In a normal fault, a reverse fault, they come together and one goes up. So it's the opposite. The last one is called a strike-slip fault. And this is where the two plates slide like this. Okay, so you have the strike-slip fault. They are sliding along the fault line. Right? Earthquakes basically happen then when the plates move. The shaking is what causes, that's what an earthquake is, right? The plates are shaking. If you've ever dropped like a pebble in water and the ripples start flowing out like that, that's basically the same kind of thing that's going on in an earthquake. That shaking happens by the faults, and then the earth is going to be shaking out like this, right? Just like you do. It's just like what happens when you drop a pebble in water. A tsunami is when there's an earthquake that happens in the middle of a large body of water, like an ocean. So you have an earthquake in the plates out in the middle of a large body of water like an ocean, That creates the waves, just like when you drop a pebble in water. It's just big, okay? And what that happens is that creates a large wave that can actually devastate entire cities along coastlines. These are called tsunamis, right? I think that's about it. Let me take a quick look in the book. We talked about faults. We've talked about crust. We've talked about plates. We've talked about the 3 different types of faults. We've talked about tsunamis, and the effect of tsunamis can actually devastate entire cities. And, you know, that's pretty it. There are some things that you can do to avoid being in a hard spot during an earthquake or tsunamis. When we looked in our book, you could have air masks for every person in your family. If they tell you to, you're going to want to put on long sleeves just in case. You could have family earthquake drills. You could locate safe spots in your house that may be sturdy, like the inside of a doorway or inside of a closet. Anyways, this is basically all we needed to know. Some of the key details anyway for the earthquakes lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, remember, feel free to talk to me in class or talk to your friends on Edmodo. I hope you've enjoyed the earthquake video test review, and I look forward to seeing you in class.